What's going on, Nerd Nation? It's your friendly neighborhood Nerd King, Mac Taylor, here in the new, what will become the podcast studio, the filming studio, the room that is literally going to be dedicated in my new apartment for the workflow. There's no not workflow stuff in here. The podcast you're about to listen to, though, was the last podcast that was recorded in my old residence of living, where I used to live in the basement of my friend's house. So we went through all the water damage in there, and it looked like a barren cave that I was doing this pod out of for a little bit. So that's the last one for that, and all the pods you're going to see moving forward were recorded in here in this room. Things are changing in this room. Over the next few pods, you'll see things look different. The cameras are different. We're still figuring out where to put things, what looks the best, and so it's kind of trial and error. Figuring out what's going to be the best way moving forward to be bringing these podcasts to you that look the most professional, stains on shirt aside. We're excited to do this thing, just to have a space of my own to do with what I want for these things. It's already a big change. So I'm excited. So this is the pod on Billy Madison. Olivia and I want to do every Adam Sandler movie. And this was felt like a good starting place for us to be as we go in Adam Sandler's long filmography that I'm sure it will take a long time for us to completely cover. But nevertheless, I'm excited. Hope you all are excited about the content that's going to start coming out. We have a lot of things planned, and I really I'm looking forward to moving forward in my career and in this podcast as we start trekking toward 100 episodes, and hopefully things are going to start being more consistent. So without further ado, let's get into Billy Madison, the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Film Vomit Podcast, an extension of the Vomit series of podcasts. As always, I'm your host, Mac Taylor, and with me today is robot enthusiast Olivia. See why we don't eat on podcasts?
I thought I would be done before. Do you want to restart?
No, we're leaving this all in.
Oh no. Oh, I feel bad. I thought I'd be done before you started, but then it happened so fast.
So today we are talking about Billy Madison because on top of YouTuber movies, Olivia also wanted to do Adam Sandler movies. This is a pretty good starter to the Adam Sandler movies because this is one of his most famous. I mean, he literally named his studio with one half of this with his movie. So it just kind of makes sense to start here. Olivia, what is your relationship with this movie?
My relationship with this movie is that I've seen it a bunch of times when I was a kid because my dad loves Adam Sandler, and that's it.
Okay.
It is not my favorite Adam Sandler movie. I don't have much to say.
It's up there for me because I feel like when I think of Adam Sandler movies, I think of this movie.
I don't. I'm not sure why.
Maybe it's because you grew up with more older Adam Sandler.
Probably.
Like Grown Ups is probably you're more like you were a little child when Grown Up came out.
I was not a little child.
I mean, wasn't it 2009 when Grown Ups came out?
Let's see.
So you were what?
Hang on.
Live Google.
Okay, 2010. So I was 6.
Yeah. So
I remember that movie being more newer. I don't know why.
Maybe you're thinking of Grown Ups 2.
Yes, Grown Ups 2, my all-time favorite movie. I'm very enthusiastic about it.
But yeah, so when you were growing up watching Adam Sandler movies, that was probably one of your more go-tos. When this movie came out a year before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole life existence was this was the talking point typically for Adam, this, Happy Gilmore, 8 Crazy Nights. That was the shit that people kept talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen this movie a lot. Way more. Happy Gilmore I only watched 5 times. I didn't really like the comedy in that one. It's the same kind of comedy. Maybe I was like a golf person. I was just like, fuck golf. I don't even watch a movie about golf. But this was always on TV too. So it's like, oh, hey, Billy Madison's on. I'll watch this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas like when Grown Ups came out, I was like 13, 12, somewhere in there. So,
old.
I mean, I was right at the age demographic to want to watch that movie.
Yeah.
But this is also like one of Adam Sandler's like big hits. Like this is when he started like becoming like a household name.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was like just SNL, I think. I think he left SNL. He might have still been on SNL at this time. Hold on. Quick live Google. Because he has a lot of SNL people in this movie, to the point where the studio told him he can't hire any more SNL people.
Yeah.
Because the quote was, Adam, you can't make a movie to hire all your friends on it. And then he went to prove them wrong, because that's the only thing Adam Sandler does, is make movies to hire his friends.
Which I love. I think that's a fun, like, if I had the opportunity to just make movies with my friends, like, I would. I don't, I totally understand the idea that, like, if I had enough money to make movies.
So Adam Sandler was fired from SNL in 1995. So literally this movie was probably like right after he left SNL, or like right before.
I didn't know that he was fired.
A lot of people get fired from SNL, especially at that time, because Norm Macdonald, who was in this movie, was also fired from Saturday Night Live for making too many O.J. Simpson jokes. Because this was at the time of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Okay, so
and there was an executive for the network that SNL is on that was friends with O.J. Simpson, and basically told Lauren, like, hey, this guy needs to calm down with the O.J. jokes. And then Norm's like, oh, ramp it up? I could do that. Okay. So yeah, the 90s cast was a popular cast with the people who watched the show, but the executives hated the 90s cast because they were like, they weren't going to get told what to do. So like Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, Norm Macdonald, like all those guys, they were going to do their thing. They're not going to, they're not politicians as far as that went.
That's fair. I feel like OJ jokes at the time would have been very topical. So like,
I mean, it literally was going on at the time.
Yeah, that's like
so
that's like the
it made a lot of sense.
I mean,
because and it's Weekend Update where you make jokes about the news, and it was all over the news.
Yeah, I mean, they've spent the last like however many years, like 7 years, just joking about Trump.
Right. And no one was like, guys, you better tone this down. But granted, this was like a murder trial, and like, but everyone watching this trial was like 90% sure to 100% sure that he murdered this woman. And so a lot of the jokes were like, about that, like where he's like, oh, when the white glove was brought out in courtroom, OJ exclaimed, that's where that was. I've been looking for that everywhere. Like, it was shit like that. And the joke that got him ultimately fired was when OJ was acquitted of the crime. And then so update starts, Norm turns around and he goes, good news, everyone, murder is now legal in the state of California. That was the last. That. Yeah, it was great. And then after that broadcast, they tapped him on the shoulder and said, that was your last broadcast.
That's a fire way to go out, though. Like, I wouldn't even be mad at that.
So, yeah. So that's a little bit of background, I guess, of Adam Sandler heading into this. But after this, he starts doing, like, movies all the fucking time. Like, the explosion of Adam Sandler movies was on the horizon, for sure. To the point now, like, he has deals with Netflix to where he can just make whatever the hell he wants, whenever the hell he wants to. He doesn't have to make another. He's got so much money now. Like, he never has to make another movie. He just like, oh, hey, me and my friends are going to hang out, make a movie. It's going to go to Netflix. Mm-hmm. Which is like a wild career path to end up on, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this movie. And it's going to be a lot of just talking about bits. Because like the movie has a plot. It does have a structure. But it's just Adam Sandler at his most Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler was Adam Sandlering.
Mm. He even said like this character is the closest to him at the time. Like he was, it was pretty on the nose for who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of just Adam Sandler isms, like in this opening scene when he's like singing about suntan lotion.
Yeah.
It's just very him. Because that was like one of his bigger things on SNL is because he was not great at sketches because a lot of the times Chris Farley would just make him laugh.
Mm-hmm.
But so Adam Sandler's whole brand of comedy is like I'll say something in a funny voice and I'll sing songs that are kind of goofy. Like that's my brand. That's like what I do.
Right.
And so like a lot of the times when he was in like standard sketches, he was just like a small character, and it was like Jimmy Fallon. It's like you couldn't have him in a big thing, especially because the other cast members like Farley would always try to get Sandler to break, and it usually worked because Chris Farley is he's in this movie and we'll talk about it, but he's so amazingly good at comedy that it's hard to like not get sucked into what he's doing.
Right.
But yeah, so he's playing this character who's like a rich kid, like a trust fund kid who spends all day in the pool with his two burnout friends, Frank and Jack. Frank played by Norm Macdonald, who we were just speaking of. Norm Macdonald also drunk in every scene he's in this movie because he's like, well, if my character's supposed to be strung out, I might as well be also a mess. And he's only in, it probably only took him like 4 days to shoot his scenes. Like he doesn't have a lot of scenes.
Mm-mm.
A lot of the times something will happen and we'll cut away and then he'll have a little joke and then we'll go back to our actual plot. So Adam Sandler's doing his thing. He's thinking about suntan lotion. And then there's this bit 3 times in the movie. There's like a penguin. He hallucinates because of being in the sun too long.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like chasing it around. And again, he's doing his Adam Sandler. He's like, you're supposed to be in the North Pole, penguin. Like it's very much just what he does. And because of this, like he kind of messes up his father's dinner. Like he's like falling all over the place, and like he's in the bath for like a long, like when they say go upstairs and get ready, you think he's like, oh, I'm gonna go throw something on, come down, and he's like in the bathtub. He's like, shampoo is better, no conditioner is better.
That is what I take when my parents are like, go get ready. I'm like, so I have 2 hours? Great.
And also he has like a line that people quote a lot, which is funny because it's such a throwaway thing, is when he turns to like the faucet is like a swan and he's like, stop looking at me, swan. People say that a lot. Like a lot people quoted that a lot when I was in these streets.
I have never heard that out in the wild.
I've heard it a few, and then there was also a Google review, which was just titled "Stop Looking at Me, Swan," which I thought was like,
that's an interesting line to take away of all the things.
Exactly. That's why I was like, wait, of all the, it's such a small throwaway bit, but I guess it's just so absurd that I guess it connects with some people, and it's early enough in the movie that even if you didn't finish the movie, you probably saw that scene,
right?
So he comes downstairs finally. But he's still wearing like normal. He's got like the cap that's like the bill is like pushed up, which is like something only 11-year-olds wore in the 90s.
I made a note about that. I think all I put was like, what is this hat? Because it was like, it's like so tight, like on his head. I was not alive for these trends. Was this a thing people actually did? Like,
I mean, I was like not alive / baby infant, but from what I know, yeah, it was kind of a thing. A lot of like Disney Channel movies that had like the cool younger brother character. It's gonna go on a journey. He would have kind of either it was a backwards cap or that thing would be pushed up a little bit. I don't know what the point of that was, but it was a thing. But it's funny that he's like kind of dressing like an actual child, not a like however old he's supposed to be. Like what 20. I think they say it at some point. He's like 25 or something. He was 27 at the time when they shot the movie, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like I can't really remember a specific scene when they like reference his actual age, but I mean,
he's pretty removed from high school, so he's probably in his mid to late 20s by this point. But
Yeah.
we'll just say 27 since Sandler was 27 when he shot it. So it's weird to see like an almost 30-year-old man like dressing like a little child.
I know. He's got like a propeller hat.
Essentially, yeah, with like the lollipop.
Yeah. He's got like really, really short shorts with suspenders.
Yeah. And then we also meet so his father's like a big like hotel tycoon, and we meet his like two under associates. So there's Eric and Carl. Eric's like the Weasley guy who's trying to like get his hands in the company, and Carl's a real one.
Carl really is a real one. He's my favorite character.
Because every time that everyone's like, aren't you annoyed that like he wants us to follow this like goofy dumb idiot, and he's like, it could be worse, and it's like, yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah, it really could.
Because Billy is like a well-meaning idiot. Like he's a complete idiot, but he's not going to intentionally try to hurt you. Yeah. Whereas Eric is like the most like money grubbiest, like slime ball weasel. You know what I mean? So it's like he's a competent businessman, but he's going to fuck you over. So it's like, which one would you want to work for? I'm probably going to take dumbass who like I can try to like help along, and like if he makes a right decision, we're all good. You know what I mean? Like
easy to manipulate, but also way more fun.
Yeah.
You know?
And like would be generally like he would like give to his employees, you know, like oh yeah, here's it's a vibe.
It is a vibe.
But there's a fun scene. They must have had a Triscuit like they must have got money from it, because it felt to me like product placement without having the actual product on scene. Is when he's like, he's like, oh man, I'm ready to get to this dinner. I'm so hungry. And Carl's like, well, you should have had some of those delicious Triscuit crackers in the car. He's like, I didn't know there were delicious Triscuit crackers in the car. You should have told me so I could have some. And it was so funny because it's like no one really speaks, like describes a product in such a way that sounds like a commercial.
Yeah.
So I was like, if they didn't get money from Triscuit, that's a crime, because they fucking did the work.
They really did. But also very funny to imagine that they got an actual sponsorship by Triscuit, which, number one, in and of itself, very funny. But two, I love that nobody cared enough to like go buy a box at the store to.
No, we're just gonna mention how good they are.
Yeah, like we're just gonna talk about it, and you figure out what it is. Like,
I mean, they use brand name recognition. They talk about how they wish they were eating some Triscuit crackers right now. You know what I mean? So, you know, if I was to get money from a company, I would do that. I'll never show their product on screen. I'll only talk about it.
Yeah, just only like lightly reference it.
Right. So yeah, Billy comes down. He kind of messes up because he's like talking in gibberish, which is a very Adam Sandler-ism kind of deal. So his dad like sends him to his room.
His room has a race car bed.
Yeah.
That I'm very jealous of.
Yeah, he has a very like young boy room for being like 27. So basically they come to a conclusion, because while Billy's out doing, again, like young boy things, him and his friends, they go like get some burgers. They're having pickle races on a window, which I felt bad for the people that got to clean that window.
I've seen that happen in real life.
Yeah, it must have been a thing, but like it's an odd thing.
Wild.
Right. And then they go and they do the light the bag of dog poop on fire bit. And this scene was, the director was surprised they convinced an older man to come out in his underwear. Like they were like, it's like the Shane Dawson thing. Like, how do you convince someone to do your bit? But it's like, it's a fun bit, you know? It's like kooky old man. And the wife's like, don't step on it. It's going to be poop. And then he's like, don't tell me what to do. And he steps on it. And he's like, it's poop again. It's a great little bit. And I thought that was going to come back. I thought they were going to like do it again, like later on in the movie, and then he was going to get him.
Yeah, that happens a lot in Adam Sandler movies, where you're watching a scene and the whole time you're not sure if it's going to be relevant to the plot later. Those are my favorite scenes.
But like sometimes it will be and sometimes it won't be. And he keeps you guessing on it. So then they make the bet. So Billy's obviously not ready to take over a Fortune 500 company, but like, duh. So he has to go through grades 1 through 12, 2 weeks each. And if he gets through, then he can take over the company. If he doesn't, then Eric gets the company. I don't know why his dad didn't want Carl to take it over the whole time. Carl was always the obvious choice.
Yeah. I would
Like,
pick Carl.
Carl's the least problematic of this group.
I know, he's really just there. He's just there and along for the ride, and
he's oddly supportive of Billy.
Yeah, no.
Like when Billy's doing his whole bits, he's like, "Oh, good night, Billy."
Yeah.
Hey. And he's doing the juice, like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa."
Stupid.
It's very dumb. So yeah, Billy has to go back, and it's so. This is a great idea for a movie, that really was, because it's so funny to see like a grown ass man in like an elementary school, but like as part of the class. And for the scene that they're doing this all in, so Billy changes, and he's wearing like a backwards baseball cap, and he's got like a sweater that's been like ripped up. It looks like someone like hulked out of it. So it's like in tatters, and he's wearing Frank's t-shirt underneath it, and then like cargo shorts. Like, it's a very weird outfit. And it's, and I needed to point it out. Like, it's the only time someone dresses away in the movie where I'm like, what are we going for here?
There was no wardrobe department. It was Adam Sandler being like showing up and then wearing what he was wearing that day in the movie.
Well, he did ad-lib a lot, because the director who also directed the movie Half-Baked, which I really love that movie as well. She was like, yeah, we're just gonna let Sandler do his bits. Like, you know, this movie kind of does revolve around him, so if he throws something in, it's probably gonna work.
Right.
And they were right on that. Because then he does this thing, he's dancing to, it's out of nowhere. So it's like he can hear the song that's in the background of the scene, and then he just starts going for it.
Yeah.
With the dance. And it's like, it's this weird, almost fourth wall break in a way. And then so he's getting ready for school. He wants a snack pack. Again, very good promotion for snack pack here.
Yeah.
And he sings the song Back to School.
That, I think, is my favorite scene.
Why? Let's go into that.
It's just like the thought of someone just singing to themselves makes me giggle by itself. But then like the content of the song, and also the fact that he's just sitting alone on the curb, like with his little lunchbox, and he's like singing like he's a little, like, I don't know why, it just cracks me up. And I don't know, the lead up to like him singing, and you think it's gonna be like, you get the vibe that like things are about to happen, but he's so like innocent. I don't know. It's just, then the bus doesn't pick him up, and
yeah, because like, why would you? Like, what bus driver is expecting to see like a grown ass man?
Yeah, if you're a bus driver and you pull over to pick up a grown man, you need to be fired immediately.
So his dad brings him to school, and then this is where we first meet Veronica Vaughn, played by Bridget Wilson, who is immediately just like, she knows about the situation, and she's like, this is pathetic. And he's like, I agree.
Yeah.
Not once is Billy delusional about the situation he's in. He's like, yes, it's very weird that I'm in an elementary school right now as an adult. I understand that.
Yeah.
And then we meet so I love that, like, we get the differences in grades and like how the classmates are and the teachers are and things like that. So like, when he goes to first grade, he has like the most hippy dippy teacher he could possibly have. And she's like, you know, like dressing the class, just hello, like wonderful little people. Like, she's like the most support. They're all hugging each other. Like, it's very much like how school kind of starts, where it's like, you know, you're special. You got it. And you're like, I do. And then you get a little further in school, and everyone's like, you fucking suck. You're a loser. And you're like, okay, I guess this is where we are now. Yeah. And her name is Miss Lippy. And so we meet some of the other kids. There's a kid going around doing like armpit farts and stuff. And they do story time, and this is a fun part of the movie because like all the kids are like falling asleep, and Billy's just like in it, like he's like listening to it. And the story, it's like, yeah, I got a question. How come after 2 hours this kid just gave up looking for his dog? If your dog is missing, you get out there and you find that fucking dog.
I mean, he had a point though. That was
I was like, yeah. You your dog's missing. You fucking get out there. You tell him.
I wasn't thinking of that, and then he started saying it, and I was like, yeah, like
he's right. We would have started a riot in this like first grade class.
I would have. I've been like, you know what? This grown man's onto something.
Then so they got to play dodgeball, which is just this teacher's excuse to like do her little like Reiki dances and like have her alone time, her Zen time.
Yeah.
And then we meet the first O'Doyle. We're gonna meet a lot of O'Doyles.
I was hoping you were gonna bring that up.
I mean, you can't. It's one of the things. A lot of people quote the O'Doyle rules bit because it's such a funny thing. Because like every couple grades we see another O'Doyle, and it's really funny. And then the what ends up happening toward the end too is also really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I have a confession. I feel like every time we do this, I always have to like confess the part of the movie that I just greatly misunderstood. So every single time I've watched this movie until now, I always thought that it was supposed to be the same kid that just grows up really fast.
Did you just think this kid had like rapid growth disorder?
Yeah. So I thought the joke, like the bit, like obviously that's not normal. So the bit would be that like it's the same kid and he's growing up with Billy. So it's like a childhood friend, but he's just rapidly like aging. I thought that was the bit. I didn't understand that
until yesterday.
What?
When did you finally figure out this wasn't the case?
Right after I finished watching the movie a couple days ago.
So your whole life you thought this was like a rapidly aging child.
I thought that was the joke. I thought the joke was that this kid is like.
But in the end, they're all in the car together. Like all the kids and the dad are in the car. So did you think that was a weird like reflection of self?
I don't think I ever paid attention to that scene. Like I was just like, this car is weird. Why is all of them?
This car is weird.
I don't. I have to stop sharing these because every single.
No, I'm glad you do because stupid. I love to imagine how you saw the movie, like to be in like Olivia's brain for a minute, and to think like this is the same child, and no one around them is gonna acknowledge that this kid is like quadrupled his height in like a few weeks.
I thought that was the bit that like no one is acknowledging the fact that this kid is just rapidly aging and he's in the same grade that Billy is in every single time. Like, I'm sorry, that's funny. Like, that's a funny idea.
Is that how like accelerated learning goes? It's like, oh, well, I guess you're like really tall, so you should probably go to the next grade. Like, you've outgrown first grade.
I don't know.
I love it. I'm glad you share these things because it makes great content. So okay, this was our first O'Doyle, the youngest O'Doyle.
They're all different people.
They're all different people. They're all brothers.
Yeah.
So we had the dodgeball scene, and apparently Adam Sandler was like wailing on these kids with the dodgeball, so they had to cut away quickly every time so you didn't see kids crying.
That's
because I thought when I was watching this scene, I'm like, oh, I bet he was like pulling it, and then they were adding in the effects later of like, I mean, they did, but no, these kids were getting wailed on.
That makes me feel sad, but at the same time,
but like these kids are actors. I'm sure they went over the scene with them before, being like, you know, he's going to be throwing a dodgeball at you. This might not be pleasant. Are you okay with this? But yeah, those kids got beat up a little bit. But the kids loved Adam Sandler. Like apparently they were always like tackling him and like hanging all over him when he was on set and stuff. So like,
Aww.
maybe
I
there was a
love
little bit
that.
of like, oh, you like for dangling on me all day.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of aggression taken out with the dodgeball
Yeah,
scene.
there was some real anger there.
So he goes to then we go to lunch where like a kid's eating a snack pack and he's just like staring at him. He's like, I'll trade. Like the kid's like halfway through the snack bag, and he's like, I'll give you this banana for the rest of it.
Yeah, like not even the full thing, the rest of it.
And
The kid
kid's
has
like,
already put his dirty hands and spit in it. Ugh. I had a big problem with that.
this is our station germaphobe Olivia here to tell you about why this is gross.
I'm not a germaphobe. I just have common sense.
But yeah, so the kid's like, he's like, I could beat you up, right? The kid's like, mm-hmm. And then this is another pretty big quote from the movie is when they're talking about like this kid off to the side is like, Mortal Kombat on the Sega Genesis is the greatest video game ever. And he's like, oh, it's a good game, but I think Donkey Kong's the best. He's like, Donkey Kong sucks. He's like, something, you suck. That gets quoted a lot, especially like something, you suck. That's like a big thing people like throw around.
Yeah, as someone who is just now, I played Mortal Kombat for the first time like a week ago.
But it was probably on like the current consoles. Like, have you even touched a Sega Genesis before?
I don't know what that means.
That was the video game console. So there used to be a time when PlayStation didn't have a console, and it was just Nintendo and Sega. Like Sonic used to not be owned by Nintendo and used to have its own system.
Okay.
So the Sega Genesis, it was like around the same time as like the Super Nintendo. And it was like an alternative because they had like better graphics, I think, or like could run like a faster, like, you know what I mean? Because Sonic's all about speed. So the Sega Genesis could like process the moving pictures better. And so like the whole commercial for Sega Genesis, and this is really funny marketing, like as far as like this is really goofy and kind of cringy that they did this.
Mm-hmm.
But they would put like Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, that was their whole huge marketing campaign.
That was really good. That made me want to buy it.
So yeah. So the Sega Genesis was like, it was like either you had a Super Nintendo or you had a Sega Genesis. Like that was like the two big systems at the time. And so either you were playing Mario or you were playing Sonic. And then on the Nintendo, I think they had Killer Instinct, and then Mortal Kombat was on Sega Genesis.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know that existed. I've played on an original like Nintendo, like the box, and you put the two games in.
And then sometimes, depending on the game you would put in, it would say Sega. Like the character from the game would say Sega. Like in Jurassic Park, the game, if you put it into the Sega Genesis, the T-Rex would go Sega.
Whoa. I was not expecting it to be an actual T-Rex saying it.
Yeah,
I thought you meant
like the T-Rex pops up and it's like Sega. Like it's very, very deep.
I feel like that was a really accurate impression. I've never heard it before, but I just can tell by the fact. I really think that you did a good job there.
Thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
I'm gonna edit your voice over the real commercial. I hope you know that, or like the real thing. I'm gonna do that.
But yeah, and then also there's another connection to Mortal Kombat in this cast, because Bridget Wilson, who plays Veronica Vaughn, would go on later in the same year to play Sonya Blade in the live-action Mortal Kombat movie from 1995. But I don't know if they knew that when they were shooting this movie. Either she just got the part, or they were filming, like they might have known, but it's just kind of funny that there's a connection there. So then we get the rest of his day, like he eats paste. And then, so it's funny, one of the little kid who does like the armpit farts and was saying that Mortal Kombat was the best video game, his mom shows up and she's like this, like the stereotypical, like hot burnout mom.
Mm-hmm.
where it's like his dad's in jail and I'm home all alone, and he's like starting to like make a move in on her, and then because he's trying to act like he's not in the class.
Yeah.
And then Miss Lippy comes up. She's like, Billy, you forgot your lunchbox and your little snowman thing that you made? He's like, yeah, thanks a lot, Miss Lippy. Really great that you came up here today.
That's what I love so much about this movie is the fact that like there is a level of self-awareness there. Like he knows it's weird that he's in that's what makes it so funny. Is like
Yeah, and
he
he knows
does
that if
think
she knows that he's in her son's class,
yeah.
he doesn't have a chance. Like,
Mhm.
that's gone. So, yeah, it's because, you know, you could have easily had him not think it was weird to be in this class,
Yeah.
but or like never acknowledge it, or just like, but like, he knows, like, yeah, I'm in a very odd predicament. It's very awkward that I'm like staring at these kids in a classroom. Like, this is weird. So yeah, they did a good job with the handling the content. It could have been much more cringe in anyone else's hands.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric then has like a little like villain monologue with this rat, like where he's talking about like we're gonna get Billy Madison to destroy Billy Madison.
I know. Which is so funny because then like hard cut to like Billy just being an absolute goober. It's so funny because it's like you would think that it was like some
Like
sort
a
of
worthy adversary.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a good opponent, and then it's him, and you're just like,
Because
okay,
right after that, it's the urinal scene where he's
yeah,
at like an elementary school, so all the urinals are like way down here, and he's like trying to figure out how to, which it's like just use the toilet. It's like sit down, use the toilet. But no, it's
sit down.
well, you know what I mean. Like make something else work. But like, but I've been in this situation because a lot of the times there's like a bunch of regular sized one and then one really small one. So like if the other ones are occupied and only that one's open, and then like everything else is taken, you start like going through like you're trying to do physics.
I would just wait in line. Is there not a line for each
No,
one?
there's never a line in the men's restroom unless it's like a really busy place.
You don't wait outside, like you don't wait next by the person for your turn. You know, like you
And
don't.
they just try to make the small one work.
Okay, well,
Usually just stand back a little further.
just wait.
You're on the go. You're a busy man.
I mean, I've waited for a stall. I feel like that's the same general idea.
I don't know. I just feel like if something's there, someone's gonna try to make it work, you know. But yeah, so Billy falls over because he's trying to use the tiny one. So that's kind of the bit there. Then he does this weird thing where he's like, "Hey, you want this milk? There's all this milk out here. This could be our milk." He's talking to like Veronica, and she's like, "That's the class's milk." Like, it could be our milk. She's like, "Nothing will ever be our milk." But she goes so quickly from like hating him to like being into him. Like there really is no like little growth. Like it's like one scene happens and then she's like, maybe I'm into this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he graduates and he talks about it, the blue duck. He's like, I drew a blue duck because I've never seen a blue duck before. And every time he graduates a grade, they have like a legit party with like clowns and all sorts of like crazy shit.
Yeah. Bounce houses.
Yeah. And this is where Frank goes back up. He's like, hey, you want to feed that donkey some beer? And he's like, yeah, man, I'll do that later. I'll catch up with you. He's like, all right, I'll go get a bucket.
Actively planning it.
Mm-hmm. It's Eric's in like a 3-legged race with like a child and is like dragging him across the ground. He's like, get up, have some dignity in yourself. This kid's like flailing around.
That is actively very much what it was like with my cousins, like if we did anything. Just being drug around like a little rag doll, just screamed at.
The clown falls down and like busts its head open, and everyone's just like laughing, and this clown is like bleeding on the ground.
Which is a funny callback later to the clown.
Yeah. A very weird callback, but
yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Oh, so Eric had like the school janitor as like his information guy, and he's like, "Do you have any more information?" And he's like, "Billy likes to drink soda. Miss Lippy's car is blue." And it's like, as he's doing it, Eric has this face of like, I am surrounded by idiots. Like, the look on his face is so like, oh my god. And the guy's like still going.
Which, like, this is funny though, because I feel like this is one movie that, like, the villain or the person you're not supposed to be rooting for is the most normal of the whole cast. Like, the most.
But he's a dickhole, and because he's a dickhole, like, you're not rooting for him, you know? Like, if he was just annoyed by everybody, it would be one thing, but he's annoyed and actively trying to, like, sabotage people.
Mm-hmm. Which, at the same time, isn't ridiculous if you think about it, because it's like, this guy obviously wants this company, and he's obviously, like, very much into that kind of thing. So when you think about it, it's like, why would Billy get it? Like, just because he's the son? Like, he also doesn't care.
Well, I feel like Billy would have gave it up anyway.
Right. But, like,
and then he would have just gave it up, and then his dad might have chosen Eric anyway. But because Eric does what he does, Billy chooses Carl, which was the better choice anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, you know what I mean? Like, what were the odds Billy was going to try to run the company, you know?
Yeah. I feel like...
I think Billy just wanted to know he could get it.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't a complete idiot, and that people viewed him a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's just like upset about this three-legged rat. I thought it was so funny. Then he goes through second grade where he passes a spelling bee for the word couch.
Mm-hmm.
And we get another party. And this is where Carl and Eric have a conversation about Billy, where Eric's like, isn't it upsetting to you that like we have to like do everything for this complete douche canoe idiot boy? And Carl's like, you know, it's whatever, like, you know, this is what his dad wants, and he's trying.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get through it. And then Eric's like, I don't like this. I don't trust this. And so Billy's going to third grade now. And it's funny because he turns this kid, he's like, oh man, you know, first and second grade was so easy, but now we got social studies and everything. It's crazy. And this kid's just like staring at him. And then he turns to the other kid and says the exact same thing. Because I feel like I've been in those situations where like you go to say something to someone, they don't respond. And you're like, okay, can we have a conversation? And then the third grade teacher is Miss Fawn. And it's funny. There's a fun dichotomy between child humor and like adult humor here, because they're reading a story. It's called like something about Miss Fanny, and all the class laughs, and she's like, now class.
Yeah.
And then she's like, turn to page 69, and then Billy's like, ha! And then everyone, obviously these children don't get that joke. And then it's a fun like connection between like obviously adult humor and child humor, because like the kids are like, ooh, Fanny, that's funny, or like butts, they said butt, but then he's like 69, am I right, guys? And they're like, what are you talking about? It's a number.
We're 8 years old.
Yeah. So I liked that. It was just a fun little, and again, they don't dwell on it too long either. It's just it's the right amount of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Airplane Mode permanently like made me like give so many other movies that much more credit, because I'm just like, hey, they didn't dwell on it. You see how this is like kind of funny?
Yeah, but they didn't turn it up to 10.
Jesus. And then when she introduces him, unlike the other teacher, she's like, yep, this is Billy. He's a complete and utter nuisance, and I'm sorry that you'll have to deal with him. He'll be gone in 2 weeks. And he's like, geez, okay.
I know, because like up until then, even Miss Lippy, like, she's so supportive and like treats him like a real like little kid, and then you get there and she's like, yeah, he's a nuisance. And it's just, first a second I didn't like her, and then I realized like her position, and I was like, oh yeah, no.
I mean, yes, a grown man has been inserted into her class, and not only is he there to like prove a point, but he's also like kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
And so it's he's disruptive, you know. Um, and it's funny because he's like, "What's up her butt?" And then she's like, "What was that?" And he's like, nothing. Let's read the book now." This is good stuff. The kid goes to read, and this is another quoted thing, is when the kid's like stuttering through it, and he's like, "Today, Junior," and she drags him out by the ear like a child.
Yeah.
And then he reacts like a child, where she's like, "What is wrong with you?" making fun of a child. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you on the account of my damaged ear that you did earlier."
Yeah.
And then she says something else. He's like, "Oh, sorry, still can't hear you. A lot of damage been done to my little ear." Also, we don't talk about it a lot because it's not really prevalent to the plot. But Billy has this maid in his house who like tries to purposely make him uncomfortable. Like she giggles at the thought of like throwing like sexual comments at Billy, because then he's like, "Ew, come on," and she's like,
Yeah.
like she like that's her enjoyment, because she's also probably been there a long time, and so
Right.
to take care of this like obnoxious little boy. So yeah, she's like, of course, anything to make him like be like, "Oh, come on," like she's like, "Haha, got it."
Yeah.
Like when he was trying to avoid going to school, and she's like, "You want to stay home and help me shave my armpits?" And he's like, "Gross, ew, go to school." It's like such a child-like way to respond to it, you know? But yeah, so like I feel like it's the only time we're ever really gonna talk about her, because she's not really like prevalent. She's just in some scenes, like has a couple of jokes, and is kind of like not really like a big character.
Yeah, I mean, her only kind of,
She only interacts with Billy pretty much.
yeah.
But yeah, Billy does cursive and he can't do Z's.
He just,
Which, like, did you even do cursive in school?
yeah.
Okay, because they don't do it anymore. So you might have been one of like the last people to like learn cursive in school.
That is my claim to fame. I'm Olivia, and I was the last person to learn cursive in school.
Like specifically, you were the last
Just,
student. You're like,
I
I
made sure
barely
of
got it, but I got it.
it.
Well, Z's in cursive are just weird. Like it's an odd way to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But
Mm.
I mean, most of cursive doesn't really make any sense, I don't think. Like
And
a
then
G.
we meet another O'Doyle here, shoving a kid in a trash can, and another O'Doyle, not the
Another
same.
one. It's not the same one. And if you thought that, you're really stupid. You idiot. Of course, we're all different. Why would you even ask us that?
And then the principal teaches, because like Miss Fawn's sick, even though like within the time span, it's supposed to be a couple of weeks. So she recovers from this sickness very quickly.
Yeah. Well, also interesting is like, I don't think this has ever happened to me where the principal subs.
It's happened to me.
I've always gone to, I mean, I went to a smaller school, but I never saw my principal from like grades 1 through like 6.
I think in elementary, especially, like I think our principal would sub if there were no subs like available. And then I think I saw it once in middle school. It wasn't like I saw it all the time. It's not like I just spent all this time with principals, but I saw it happen a couple times for sure. I think it does depends on your how many subs you have on call and how many teachers are sick. Like if it's flu season, you're probably a little screwed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this principal, and then he does the thing that teachers do where it's like, "Oh, you're passing a note, let me read it." It's just like shitting on his weight.
What I love is that it's great at the beginning. So he like thinks it's a compliment.
Yeah.
And then
Or
the
it's like,
end.
"It's so nice to have the principal with us today." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then it's like, get to stare at his fat tub of lard ass. He should kill himself. And he's like, "Oh, okay." Uh, then we also get, so I guess it's Valentine's Day, and Billy's getting these Valentines from these like children.
Mhm.
And again, they didn't make this weird. He just kind of like acknowledges it. Like he sees it and he's like, "Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's like, "Okay, like I get it. I'm like the older looking guy, the mature looking guy, whatever. Thank you, thank you." But then he gets one from the principal. And then it says, "P.S. I'm horny." And he does like the glasses take off thing. And Billy's like, Like it's very much like super uncomfortable.
Mhm.
The principal character as a whole is very enjoyable. Uh, there's a funny scene too where Frank and Jack are still at Billy's house even though he's gone all the time.
Mhm.
Because Frank's like, "Hey Billy, I just thought of something funny," and he's like, "Where's Billy?" And he's at school, remember? And he's like, "Oh yeah." But
that is pretty great to me.
they're
Like,
always at his house, even if he's not. They just live there essentially. So, and then Ernie, who is the classmate that Billy like talks to the most, like the little nerdy kid.
I love him.
Yeah, great kid, great character. Gets him to call Miss Vaughn, and it's like, would you ever date a student? And she's like, no. And he's like, what about Billy? He's an adult. And she's like, yeah, right. Billy's an adult for sure. And then they hang up the phone, and Billy's like, you blew it. Even though like he was getting this kid to do his dirty work for him. Again, it's like such a like immature, childish thing. It's funny.
Yeah.
So then we get the school field trip, and this is where Chris Farley comes in. He plays the bus driver. And one thing he does, and this was completely ad lib, is he gets himself so red when he's yelling because apparently he like chugged a cappuccino before the scene and was just like really just like working himself up into a frenzy so he could get like really red and like the spit and everything comes out and so it's like it's really good.
Yeah, no, I love Chris Farley. We should do a podcast. Okay, so
on what? We should do a podcast. Like we're doing a podcast right now. Like, I don't know if you're aware.
This whole time I just thought we were like FaceTiming. We should do a podcast over Tommy Boy. That's like one of my all-time.
I think that also came out in 1995. I think.
Yeah, no, he
like
was
right
really into movies
time.
about sons taking over businesses. That was his thing.
Well, because Farley did a lot of like he died in 97, right? Like it was not too long after this.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of movies before he died because there's like Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, Beverly Hills Ninja, Airheads, also with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Like he did a lot of shit in a row.
Fun fact, it's not a fun fact. It's actually sad.
Okay.
Chris Farley died on my birthday.
Oh.
Isn't that sad?
Why would that? Yeah, that is sad. I don't know why you started with. I guess because you're throwing a fact out and people say fun fact.
Yeah. Sad fact.
Depression fact of the day.
Sorry.
But yeah, so Farley's great in these scenes. Like the kid hits him at the sandwich. She's like, I'll turn this bus around. That'll end your little field trip, won't it?
Just the most chaotic like I would be scared of him.
Well, and like that's like his shtick is like go high with energy. Because the I guess the comedy derives itself from like really big guy doing a lot of big things. Because also it's just how hard he comes into a scene. Because like anytime you look at Farley's SNL sketches, a lot of people are laughing.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to like look that in the face and not have a response. Like if someone is like yelling in your face, like real big and like the van down by the river sketches. He did like 3 or 4 of them. Like look at David Spade's face when he's like grabbing them and like you're gonna be smoking doobies. Like you know what I mean? Like it's hard to you don't know what's coming and it's a 10 and it's in your face.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of when comedy can be taken to a 10 and it doesn't absolutely ruin it. Like not cool.
Well, because it's in short format.
Yeah.
In this, he's a small character. So he's only in like what 3 scenes really, and it's like it's tidbits. So it never feel like if he was like a character's in the whole movie, that would get old.
Yeah,
but he's only there when they need like someone to be like the crazy over the top.
Yeah.
So yeah, it works really well. So he's doing his old yelly bus driver face, and then Billy gets dared to touch Veronica's boob. And even he's like, that's assault, which is like, good on you for the 90s. But also, you did it. but like,
Yeah.
at least you were aware of it.
Yeah, he was aware that it was bad, but he still did it, so it cancels out.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
she not thrown off by it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think she could hear what they were saying.
Well, yeah,
And she,
because then she quotes it to him.
yeah. So
Right.
it's like, I
Yeah.
think she knew it was coming and is like, he's trying to bond with the kids and
Yeah.
like, he's going to do this dumb thing. And then because she quotes it to him and he's like, totally fell. It was an accident. Totally fell. She's like, yeah, go sit down. And then she says like an alarming thing where she's like, it's not the first time someone's tried to grab my chest. And it's like, okay, is that a problem though? Because
I know, she's like, I'm used to it. No biggie. It's like,
yeah,
well, no, it is, but
it's definitely a big deal. We should circle back to that later. But also I feel like this actress and Adam Sandler do have a really good chemistry.
Mhm.
But she doesn't act a lot after this. Like after this in Mortal Kombat, like she stopped acting in 2008, I think. And then just recently in 2020 did another thing because it was a Mortal Kombat voice. In like the latest Mortal Kombat game, she voiced Sonya Blade.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so she left acting, which I thought she was a really good actress. So I don't know what I'm curious as to what the reasoning was. Maybe she just didn't feel it anymore. I don't know, but she was doing the business for a while though, for sure. So also Chris Farley and Adam Sandler's friends ate all the lunches. Because like, who would eat like 30 lunches? And it's like, so it's Chris Farley and then Frank and Jack, and they're just like eating and they're laughing, and there's no real like reason for it.
Yeah, also they're on a field trip, right?
Yeah,
And they get to like a farm.
yeah.
So, like, what were his friends doing?
How did they get there?
Yeah, like how did they get there? They just like show
I'd
up.
like to think they were like in the back of the bus, and like no
Yeah.
one noticed.
Yeah, and no one noticed.
They were just like crouched down, you know.
That's, I don't know, that's just a funny thought to me. Like they literally show up with no explanation, and it's just
Yeah,
like,
to this random like Amish farm, and
yeah.
then meet this Chris Farley character, and they all agree to eat these kids' lunches.
Yeah.
It's fun to deconstruct for sure. So then we see the banana peel bit for later too. So Chris Farley's eating a banana and throws the peel on the ground, and this will kind of be important later.
They show it like 5 times.
Yeah. You see cars like missing it, and then finally, so it really builds to it, but you don't know how it's going to come into play later. Also, their guide on this little like field trip is like, there's like so many types of horseshoes. Are there horse socks? Is anyone listening to me? Like, she also has a line where they're like, "What about the lunches?" She's like, "I bet it was that damn Sasquatch." Like she has a few like bits, and the joke is like, look at this old lady saying these things. But then they're trying to leave, and Ernie has peed his pants, and Billy does the coolest thing he can do, which he splashes some water on his pants, and they're like, "Hey everyone, look, Billy peed his pants," and he's like, "Of course I peed my pants. You're the coolest if you pee your pants."
Yeah.
And then Ernie turns around like, "Hey man, Ernie peed his pants too. That's cool." And then they go to get on the bus, and all these kids piss themselves.
He was real for that, but also now everyone's peeing themselves. So
yeah, maybe we should also be like, guys, that was a day thing.
Yeah.
Now let's not pee our pants.
Yeah. That was just fun for the field trip.
Because Chris Farley's like getting on the bus. He keeps like looking like, "Oh, okay, get on the bus." And then he stops Billy and he's like, "That Veronica Vaughn is a real piece of work. I know from experience." And he's like, "No, you don't." He's like, "Yeah, well, a friend of mine and her got it on." And they're like, No, they didn't." He's like, No, they didn't. But could you imagine if they did?
Which is just as good as it actually happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this theoretical friend that doesn't exist. What if him
Yeah.
and Veronica did it? That'd be pretty cool, right? And again, I'm glad we had this scene because like Adam Sandler and Farley had really great chemistry. They didn't do enough projects together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he gets another party and the band is singing "Passing the Third Grade" the Billy Madison way, which is just so funny to me that this rock band is singing a song about a 27-year-old man passing the third grade. I fucking like that made me giggle. Uh, so he goes over to talk to Jack, who's like spraying this kid with a hose. And the kid's like, "Mister, stop. I don't know you." And he's not even looking at the kid. He's just like looking over here. And it's so random that it works.
And it's also like literally move 1 foot to your left.
Right. This kid can easily get out of this situation. Like he's not targeting you. I think he just turned the hose on and you were there.
I don't know you.
And then he sees like the mom and she like wipes the kid's nose and she starts like trying to do like the sexy like rub around.
That just made me feel gross. You know how I feel about mucus.
Yeah, I know. And then Billy's like, "Yeah, snotty mom, you can have her. That's all you." And then Eric also chokes on a hot dog here, like he's doing like the whole like, "No, there's some stupid part of the lot." You never want to be angry when you're eating like a hot dog or like.
No, that is the most unserious food.
Yeah.
You can't be angry while holding a glizzy. That is just impossible.
But also like anything with like a lot of breading and stuff, like anything easily choked upon, like don't feel emotion other than like enjoying the fact that you're eating it because like it's dangerous waters.
That's a slippery slope. You got something. Never mind. Keep going. What's the next scene?
So,
Let's talk about it.
So Veronica shows up to this party. And Billy takes her to like he has like a tent in the backyard, but it has like all these amenities in it. And it has like a porno potty full of pornography. Because like she opens it up and he's like, "That's for reading."
The reading nook.
Yeah. And it's where Carl comes to warn Billy that Eric's like planning something. Because he's a real one.
He really is.
And he's like, "You did that little weasel laugh he always does." Billy's like, "Yeah, how's that go again?" And then Carl does. He's like, "Man, you're really good at that." And he's like, "Thanks."
He is really good at it.
So Billy's zooming through middle school. He's dunking on these kids with the basketball. There's a little lice scene where the nurse is like, "Ah, the lice." And then so this is where they reference Adam Sandler's album with this scene because he has a song on it called Lunch Lady something, like Lunch Lady something. But the song's about sloppy joes. And so this lunch lady comes in and the actress they got for this nailed it. Because she's like, "I know you kids like them sloppy. I made them extra sloppy for you." And she's like, but they're like perfectly made sloppy. Like they're not very sloppy. Like they're very well put together sloppy joes. And then he's like, "Lady, you're scaring us." And everyone starts laughing.
Yeah, she knew she had one scene.
Yeah, like if she nails this, she goes down in history.
Yeah, and she did.
Nailed it.
Where is she today?
I don't know, but she is hilarious because that again, you could have went too big, but she went just big enough.
Because I've met a lunch lady like that before.
Yeah, I feel like lunch ladies are either like apathetic or this. Like there's no in between.
No.
I will take this one 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, love her. I'm just thinking of the time a lunch lady. So we were only supposed to grab 10 mozzarella sticks.
You called me this day.
Dude. I hate that I am referencing something that's happened to me and you're like, yes, I was there for that. Because I feel like my
This is
life.
where we are in our friendship now, where things that you talk about in the past, I have now been there for.
Yeah, I know. You're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you were very mad about that. But then it's just like it's not.
It it was a weird situation.
I don't like being exposed for how truly mad I was. Like this is not just like a fun little tidbit. It's like no,
Well,
I was
because all
genuinely.
day you were talking about like, dude, it's Mott Stick Day. I can't wait to get some Mott Sticks.
Dude, it was every Thursday. I miss high school already. I just want the lunch. Can I just come in for the lunch? Or is that weird?
That would be a funny bit of like two like grown-ups being like, hey, you want to go get some lunch? And it's like a school cafeteria.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
being so real though.
you're like,
I
you come here often?
miss
Like,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is my favorite spot. So yeah, Billy's zooming through school. We get the Sloppy Joe bit, and then he's about to go to high school, and they're all like, "But Bill." So apparently, it's elementary through middle school. It's like one school, because I know every school district is different. Like me personally, elementary school was till 4th grade, middle school was 5th through 8th, and then high school. But high school is always 9th through 12th. Like that doesn't change typically. Although there are some weird middle schools that have 9th grade as a part of it. That's weird. Stop doing that. But but like I feel like whatever your elementary and middle school is, it varies where you're at, like what grades were where.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having 9th graders in middle school is odd.
No, I don't.
But having 5th graders and 8th graders in the same building is also very weird from my experience, because you come in as like a fucking toddler, and you leave as like a weird, like semi-adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I remember just like walking into that middle school, like people are huge here. Like what the fuck? Like who are these tall people? Where are they going?
Yeah, I mean, my old school was 5th through 8th, so
It's an odd thing. Like really, it should be like 6th through 8th, right? I don't think 5th graders are ready for
yeah, no,
middle
5th
school.
grade is very much still elementary school to me.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no reason for them to be with 8th graders. That's
Because it just
weird.
feels wrong.
Yeah, like yeah. I
You're
like
like, I shouldn't be here.
yeah, no, like I everyone's so big and I am so small. Like I don't that's a really intimidating way to go into something.
Yeah, for sure. And like the lockers were even huge when I walked in, because like in elementary school, like I think we had like cubbies in our classroom, but then you get like it's like a full size locker, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all this space?
Mhm. All of the space.
Which wasn't a lot of space, but it's like I don't know, there was something about. But our lockers were bigger in middle school than they were at high school,
Yeah, no, they get progressively smaller the more
which is
space
like
you get.
I need more space because I have more shit now. Like, why are
I
you giving me
never once
less?
went my locker,
Well,
ever.
so I used my locker and other people used my locker.
Okay.
Because like we would all meet at my locker. So some people, like to save time, just took all the shit out of their lockers and put it in my locker, so that when we all met there, everyone would just grab their shit and go.
Aw,
Because there'd be like
yeah.
15 people at my locker at a given morning.
Okay, Mr. Popular.
I think it was just a good spot. I think my locker was just like at a prime spot to get to classes. It's not like that everyone's like, let's go see Ben. I think it was more because some of them I didn't even know. Like there were 2 or 3 people where I was like, I think everyone got a +1 at some point, and then it was just like, who are these people? But yeah, I don't know why we got on that tangent, but high school. That's what we were talking about. So
Mhm.
Billy's about to go to high school. But the party before is when Eric blackmails the principal, who used to be a pro wrestler who sat on a guy
Mhm.
and then became a principal with no degree.
Yeah.
But it's also funny because like he's in the pool like fighting these jet skis. Like he's on like a lobster floaty, and like these jet
Yeah.
skis going by, and he's like swinging. And then he's walking inside. He's still got the flippers on, so he's like smacking the ground when he's walking. But yeah, so it's like either you say, you screw over Billy, or I put all your secrets on the table. So Eric's being a little weaselly bitch boy.
Yeah.
Then we get Billy's. So this whole segment of Billy at high school reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons where Homer goes to college. Don't know if you've seen it. But literally, like, beat by beat, it's like this exact scene.
Oh, okay.
So in the episode of The Simpsons, Homer has to go back to college to get a degree. He gets there and he's trying to be like the party guy and like make fun of nerds. And it's like, but like times have changed since he's been there, So like when he's like trying to make fun of like nerds, everyone's like looking at him weird. Like, why is he yelling at this kid? And then like he goes to a class and the teacher like makes a joke about like an element on the periodic table and the class laughs, and then he drops his pencil and only Homer laughs. So it's like shit like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he ends up befriending the nerdy kids because they're the only kids that'll talk to him. And then he tries to like be like, all right, guys, I'm going to show you the time of your life or whatever. And we're going to have the college experience. But so it's like a lot of the beats of that episode just felt to me like this, how it goes for Billy. Because he shows up in like the Firebird and but he has a banger song blasting. Yeah. I don't know why the kids weren't enjoying that.
Yeah.
These like stuck up late 90s kids, go fuck yourselves. He has the denim, which is still in style. So he's got the denim and an Oreo Speedwagon shirt, which that was what made me laugh. Like, you're wearing an Oreo Speedwagon shirt.
Yeah, was that like a 90s thing?
No, it's a band from the 80s.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a band from the 90s, though. Were they popular in the 90s?
No, that's the joke, is that he's listening to like 80s music because he would have went to school like toward like the late 80s. So he's like,
oh, okay. I thought that was just
he's doing what he did when he was in high school that worked, but these are a different group of kids. They don't, if he'd have pulled up maybe blasting like Nirvana,
Okay, no, I get it. I guess I just wasn't familiar with the
and that's why the Oreo Speedwagon thing is so funny, because that was kind of a niche band, I think, even for the 80s to me. Like, not a lot of people are like rocking Oreo Speedwagon shirts in like
that's my favorite band.
Yeah. So the fact that it's so prevalently there is really funny to me personally. But yeah, it's not in it. He goes to class and the guy's like, something about chlorophyll. He's like, chlorophyll, more like borophyll. And like all the elementary schoolers would have loved that line.
Yeah. No, that was killed.
Teenagers who just want to get through the class. They don't want to have any attention drawn to them. I mean, you were literally just one of these kids. Like, if you were in a class and someone did the borophyll line, I'm sure you would do what the girl next to him did.
No, that would have. I don't. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I'm trying to think of who. I don't know. My experience was weird. I never had like an actual like in-person science class because like I was on.
Oh, because of
So like I don't know how I'd react. I think my biggest like I don't know, annoyance was like when a kid would accidentally not mute their mic on the Zoom meeting. And then I'd be like, come on. No one wants to hear your parents talking in the background. Mute
and would
yourself.
that get a big laugh?
Yeah.
Is that your moment?
Yeah.
Like, come on, mute yourself. And everyone's like, haha. And you're like,
I know, like scooting out of the
the little scoot.
Like,
that's brilliant. So yeah, Billy's like not fitting in. I even wrote in my notes, very Homer goes to college.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the girl's like, don't talk to me. And he's like, no, I will not make out with you. This girl's trying to get me to make out with her. It's so crazy. He's talking about all the borophyll. And then she's talking about making out with her. It was crazy. And then there's like a deadpan silence. And he's like, all right, proceed with the chlorophyll. And then we see another O'Doyle who dumps like a lunch on Billy's head.
Another O'Doyle. That it's different.
It's a different person. No one would ever think they were the same person. And then he meets the loser kids who are trying to be like, dude, like, dude, they don't even pick on us anymore because they pick on you. And one kid even says like they shoved a traffic cone up his ass, which is like, okay, we should definitely look into this though, right? Like that's a little much.
Yeah, no, we should.
Dumping lunches on heads, whatever, you know.
Mhm.
But once we start reaching like sexual deviancy, maybe we should say something here.
Deviancy. No, we should definitely circle back around to that. Make
Yeah.
sure those kids are okay.
Yeah. But also the hair in this movie is so 90s. Everyone's got like rat tails galore.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Why
But it's
would they
coming
do
back.
that?
People are starting to do it again. Like they either got the rat tails or like the permed mullet kind of deals going on right now.
Dude,
It's become very
seriously.
popular. Yeah.
If you had a mullet in my high school, anyone watching this right now, if you had a mullet in my high school, I promise you, I hated you. I hated you so much. And if you wore camo and you had an army surplus backpack and you came in every day in your loud pickup truck cutting me off in the parking lot, I hated you. And no one else liked you either. And you know what? I know you came in every day because you would come in with your big gulp from Speedway and you thought you were super cool. I never understood that because how did you have one every single day? How can you afford that? Number one. And two, what are you drinking? It had to have been like Mountain Dew or something like redneck, but I hated it. It made me so angry. I'm being so serious. If you had like a baseball cap and a mullet, I hated you and I wanted to trip you in the hallway every single day, but I didn't. Okay.
Get them. What do you have against big gulps, though? Like, I feel like that's the only thing in your rant. I'm like, I enjoy big gulps.
Every single day?
I mean, maybe they had. Is there like a refill system?
Slurping it down right behind me, loudly, stirring your ice. It's English class. It's literally like 11 in the morning. I need you to calm down. Like you're literally right behind me, like stop it, stop. I don't want to hear your mouth sounds.
Doesn't Speedway like do refills? Or do you have to get a new cup every time?
The styrofoam, not the reusable cool cups.
Well, no, because there was a gas station by where I grew up, which again, I'm not saying that translates to anyone else's hometowns, but my hometown's weird. I know. I've talked to a lot of people. It's clearly the weird place to live. I get it. But there was a gas station. They had like the big styrofoam cups, and if you brought it back, you could refill it because it was 70 cents to get a 44 ounce. And then the refill is 10 cents. So you would just bring it back. No matter what condition it's in, you could fill it up. Like I had this same styrofoam cup in my car for like a month or two.
That's even worse. That they're going in every day, same cup, all the germs at the bottom. Ugh! That makes me so angry. Like, gross. And then the germs seep into the styrofoam.
Saving money, though.
I can't do this. That's so nasty.
Take a breath.
I'm okay. I'm fine. I feel kind of bad now. But
no.
They were racist.
I mean, yeah, fuck those kids.
Yeah, you racist, gross, sweaty, mullet-wearing dweebs.
So Billy visits third grade again. And the chubby kid with the rat tail is like, how was it, Billy? Was it cool? I can't wait to go to high school. And he's like, never grow up. And he's like shaking his face.
Yeah.
And then Veronica gives him a pep talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then Billy decides, like, I should make amends with people I picked on. So he calls Steve Buscemi.
I love this scene so much.
And it's like, hey, is this the guy I went to high school with? And he's like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, hey, man, I'm sorry for being an asshole to you. You know, I said some things and I reflected on it, and that's not cool. You want to go get coffee sometime? And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. And then he gets off the phone and there's like a kill list. And he crosses Billy Madison off of it. And the rest of the list is all the crew from the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so and then he puts lipstick on, which is such a random, just little.
I know. I liked that though, because
Steve Buscemi is amazing in whatever he does. But it just goes to show, you know, making amends might keep you from getting shot one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good moral to take away from it.
For sure.
In this movie.
So the principal's forced to lie about Billy, and his dad believes it, and then Billy just kind of rolls over.
Mm-hmm.
So he does like cue another awesome song. The soundtrack to this movie was great, and he's like pounding back kegs with his boys. He's not going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to Veronica's house and really messes up the relationship when he's drunk.
Right.
And then Veronica then shows up and then beats the hell out of him. Like gives him a legit wake-up call.
Yeah.
And it works. But it's also funny when he goes to her house to like try to sleep with her, he sees like the penguin hallucination and he's like, oh, I get it. I'm not trying to interrupt.
The penguin thing, I love that it's consistent through the whole movie.
But it's not overused.
But but every single time it happens, you're like, okay, well, I mean, that was a weird choice, but I'm understanding what's happening, right?
But also, I'm sure that the rental of that penguin costume was not cheap. Yeah. So it's like, we might as well use it a couple of, like, I understand the want to use it. But again, it wasn't like it was all that, like, I never was annoyed when the penguin showed up because it's small snippets. But yeah, she beats him up. He does a musical number, which is like the weirdest part of the movie to me.
Yeah.
Where it's clearly like an actual like chorus singing the lines.
Yeah.
And like the kids are there and like the clown is not dead.
Yeah.
Like it's an odd way to do it, but does it feel too out of place? No, but it just felt odd, and I might have cut that from the movie if I was editing it. It just kind of takes you out of the flow of the film.
Yeah, no, it's a very weird scene because it's like I feel like there was something in between that got cut and that would provide context to whatever that is. Like the musical.
I think it's just Billy's imagination.
Right, but it's just so weird.
We've never really seen Billy's imagination at all in the film go that wild, like except for the penguin. But even then, it was just like either he was like drunk or like been in the sun. You know what I mean? Like there was an explanation for him being so loopy.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, it's just like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
So like, and again, I don't hate it. It's just of all the things in the movie, it felt like we could have cut it. But this movie's already 90 minutes on the dot. Maybe they needed it to fill out that time.
Maybe.
Because I think if the movie's less than 90 minutes, at least at the time of this movie being made, I think if it was less than 90 minutes, it couldn't get a wide theatrical release. Like there is a time limit on movies and their theatrical runs, which I think now it's longer. Every movie now is like over 2 hours. Mm-hmm. But at the time, 90 minutes was like your goal. For comedies and horror films, if you could keep it 90 minutes, like that was the most easily digestible thing for a wide audience.
Yeah. So throw in a little musical number. That's the moral of the story.
When in doubt, sing it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he decides, I'm gonna. The kids also low key threaten the principal, like they just flock to his house like birds.
Mm-hmm. No, I love when he opens the door and they're all on the lawn.
Yeah. And so Billy is like, I can finish it, and they're like, I was like, what the deal's the deal? You getting finished in time? And he's like, academic decathlon, you and me. And this is, you remember when I was telling you that I forgot about a scene and it caught me off guard and I laughed really hard?
Mm-hmm.
This is coming up. So the principal of the high school comes out and he's like explaining the rules of the decathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, also, if anyone cheats on this decathlon, just like my ex-wife, who is a dirty whore, I am going to snap. Like that. I could not stop laughing when that happened because it's so subtle in delivery, and I completely forgot, probably because like child Ben did not find that funny because that made no sense to me. Like I'm like, give me Adam Sandler doing the goofy voices and throwing the hands around. And I'm like, that's comedy. But like now I'm like, oh, that's hilarious that this guy's like, if anyone cheats, like my ex-wife, who is a dirty fucking whore, I am gonna snap.
I like that it's not even that, just, like, he references that a couple more times, like, it
Mhm.
yeah.
But sometimes like when they do the board with all the categories, there
Yeah.
are references on the board. So it's like he's sometimes not even referencing it, but it's there, and that's really
Mhm.
funny to me. Like the categories will be like, my wife's a trans, common trailer trash, like shit like that is like thrown around the board.
Yeah.
And I when I saw the board, I started laughing too because I'm like, it's on
Yeah,
the
no, the
board.
board got me.
But yeah, it's the way he delivered the line because it starts off pretty straightforward and he never changes the tone of his voice. And then it slowly just divulges, and then he's like, I'm gonna snap. And then it's just like, oh man, that's so good. That's such a fucking good. And he's also played by Robert Smigel, who did all the animated stuff on SNL. So all like the cartoon funhouse things, that's
Mhm.
Robert Smigel.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah. So another SNL alumni here.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I laughed so hard. And it's like back and forth for the decathlon for a while. Eric, like they're baking a pie, and the scene stuck out to me, and like the pie's on fire, and then Eric's on fire, like a full body stunt burn, and then Billy's like next to him, you know. Like that, they kept dialing that one up to see how much they could go with that one. And then we also see the last O'Doyle when they were at the high school. I forgot to mention it because he puts manure in Billy's locker. And then they're driving and they hit the banana peel and they go off the cliff. Whole time saying, O'Doyle rules, O'Doyle rules, O'Doyle rules. Because Billy said to that last O'Doyle, he said, you're going to go down one day, O'Doyle.
Mhm.
And literally, like a day later, they all die.
Yeah.
Whole family's dead. So,
Which changes how I watched that scene, because in my mind I'm like, oh, the one bully is gone, and then like now knowing it's like a car full of children,
yeah,
like
an
that changed
entire
for me.
family. The O'Doyle legacy is gone. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And also like preparing for it, like Veronica was doing, like if Billy got questions right, she would strip, and then he got them wrong and she was putting stuff back on. And then they have Chris Farley doing it.
Yeah.
And Sandler's face where he's just like, because there was a lot of bits like that where Farley would like there's a SNL sketch where they play a married couple, like an old married couple, and Farley is like really going hard trying to get Sandler to laugh.
Yeah.
And he's just like biting his lip, trying to like not laugh at the scene and deliver his lines. Like anyone wants to go back and watch that, it's perfect, like amalgamation of comedy and like friends trying to make each other laugh. Like it doesn't feel like people working in a thing. It felt like you and your friend, and you're trying to get your friend to laugh, and they're trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
And this scene gave that vibes where Farley's like doing like the little like, and it's like, God damn it, like, I can't look at him. So yeah, all that happened before. I forgot to mention. I don't know why my notes were out of order there, but whatever. So Billy does like this speech about like he's trying to incorporate the dog story into it, and the principal's like, that was so far off from any relevant point. We are all dumber for having sat here and listened to it. And this is apparently a line that the SNL people that would try to approve sketches would say to Chris Farley all the time. So like Farley would pitch a sketch and they would say that word for word, being like, we were all dumber for having heard it. And then Sandler's like, oh, no would have sufficed. And that's what Farley used to say. No would have been okay. So I like that they threw in like a kind of a jab at SNL.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So the business ethics question gets Eric mad because like he's such a villain that he can't even, the idea of ethics just like makes him break down.
That's what took him down. Just a question of ethics.
And this is the line that everyone shouts at this actor, because apparently he's never watched the movie, and that he walks down the street and someone will be like, Bidix! And he's like, what?
What? What a very jarring thing to have yelled at you.
from like across the street, you know? It's like 2 in the morning.
Well, this actor is very like, I
He was in
forget
the
his name.
West Wing.
What?
He was in the West Wing, right?
Yes, I love the West Wing. That's what I was about to say. Yeah, he's in the West Wing, and so the
He's in
whole
a lot
time,
of like serious things.
yeah, he's like, he plays a very similar character in the West Wing too. I don't know if you've ever watched the West Wing.
But is he like villainous or is he just like
He's
very
very
straight?
dry. He's just
Okay,
very like
got it.
dry and like, this is stupid. Why am I here? Like that kind of
Mhm.
vibe. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so he pulls out a gun and he tries to shoot Billy and Veronica, but
Mhm.
Steve Buscemi saves the day.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Man, I'm glad I apologized to that guy."
Yeah, I know.
Uh, and so, Billy gets the girl. His dad wants to give him the job, but he's like, "No, I'm giving Carl the job because Carl's the real one."
Carl.
And everyone's like hooking up. Like the principal's like still horny. He's like trying to hump Billy and they get him away. But
Mhm.
Frank hooks up with the lunch lady. The clown hooks up with Miss Lippy.
Mhm.
Chris Farley hooks up with the penguin. Jack gets rejected by this girl who I think is in high school. I think it's the high school girl from earlier. Like he goes to kiss her and she's like,
Yeah.
"Get out of here."
Love that for her though.
Yeah. Proper reaction.
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, everything kind of turns out. The high school like nerds are like hooking up with the mom. Yeah, and that's Billy Madison. We have some trivia. I always try to incorporate it and talk about the movie. This is also Adam Sandler's mother's favorite movie that he's done.
Okay. I love that.
Because like it's not the most like raunchy thing he's ever done, because he's
Oh
done
yeah.
some other stuff where it's like your mom probably doesn't want to watch that. But
Mhm.
also like he said this was very much like him, so she probably sees a lot of his personality in it and is just like really proud of him for having done it. And it's like, that's my boy there. That's my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Aw.
it's cute that
Really?
she loves this movie. Talked about that. So the guy who plays Carl actually kind of is an Eric in real life, though, because he hates this movie. He doesn't ever want to be associated with this movie. Yeah, he said that
What?
the comedy was immature and childish, and that basically he never wanted to work with Adam Sandler again.
Boo, Carl. Ew. I hate that. Hang on.
The lady who played Juanita, who was the maid, she died like a year or two after this movie of skin cancer. So R.I.P. to her.
Oh.
Also, the part of Adam Sandler's father was supposed to be. They offered it to Charles Bronson originally. I don't know if you even know who Charles Bronson is.
You would have
So
to tell me something
he was
else.
like an action movie star of like the 70s. Like he was in like movies like Death Wish and a lot of like war movies and things, cop movies. He played cops a lot. But he rejected the role, which makes sense. I don't see him working in this role. I think they were just trying to get a name, And
Yeah.
I think the guy who they got to play Billy's dad like worked much better. Billy has a Scooby-Doo lunchbox.
Yeah.
That's a cool note of the kind of lunchbox that he carried.
Mhm.
Originally, the role of Eric was supposed to be played by Bob Odenkirk.
I can't.
And the reason why Odenkirk was rejected is the studio said, Sandler, you can't hire all your SNL friends. Because Bob Odenkirk used to write for SNL. And so I think he could have done pretty well, but it's hard to imagine anyone else besides the actor who did it playing it because it's associated with that role. But Bob Odenkirk's great, and I wouldn't have said no to Bob movie. But it's just so funny that the studio is like, you can't hire your friends in a movie, Adam. And then he's like, oh yeah, that's all of what I do. That's
Here is an interesting thing. This means nothing to no one except for me.
Okay.
So, the guy that plays Carl,
yes,
who apparently hates playing Carl, was in Barry, my favorite show.
Yeah.
He's dead though.
Oh,
Dead.
I did not know
Sorry, spoiler alert. He's dead as hell.
that.
But in the show, I don't know if he's dead in real life. That'd be really awkward if he was. Nope, he's still alive. Okay, good.
He's dead as hell, both of them.
Yeah, he's embarrassed.
Also,
He plays
Philip
really
Seymour
small role.
Hoffman auditioned for Carl,
I can't picture him.
and got the role and then turned it down. Yeah, so he auditioned. Sandler was like, "Oh yeah, he's really funny. Let's get him." And then they called him and he said, "Yeah, I'm just not into it." And it's like, why'd you audition?
Yeah, like
Philip Seymour Hoffman was a weird guy. Great actor, like has a legacy. His son now acts. His son's also great. But that guy had some issues. He was very back and forth.
His lore, I'm not sure.
Well, he died of drug problems, but with his and all, he had a love-hate relationship with acting, I think, for sure. But he was so good at it. So good at it. Mission Impossible 3 is the best because of him, because he was such a good villain.
I know him from The Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Twister.
He's in a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
So we talked about Sandler being 27. We talked about all the rest of that. So yeah, that's a little bit of lore about Billy Madison. I mean, it's hard to not, when SNL people go on to do other things, it's hard not to talk about their connection to SNL. A lot of comedians stem from SNL. But Sandler was just part of the 90s where like the studio just hated the cast. Like they were popular. Like people, I mean, everyone loves Adam Sandler.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not into like his newer stuff, like you have a relationship with Adam Sandler's content at some point if you're into comedy, right?
I feel like everyone likes at least one Adam Sandler movie.
A lot of people, it's this one, but a lot of people really love Happy Gilmore.
Mm-hmm.
Some people live their fucking lives by that movie. But like, also, I feel like it's good intro. Like a kid watching Billy Madison is fine. You know what I mean? Like there's some raunchy jokes in there, but they're not like egregiously raunchy. And a lot of the times, like I said, the kid's probably not going to get it. Like the 69 joke, I probably did not get that as a kid.
Right.
My parents probably laughed, and I was like, "What? What is funny?"
70.
And numbers comedy.
Numbers are fun.
Like it's ingrained in my head as a child. Like numbers are comedy. I'm like, okay, 7.
Yeah, I mean, what's your favorite Adam Sandler movie?
No, I don't think so. I think this podcast, like of watching them all, will help me decide.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know.
Interesting. Because
there's a lot of them that I like, and there's some that I didn't watch until later in my life. You know, like this one I grew up watching. There's a few of them I grew up watching, but like Big Daddy was one that I didn't really watch until later. So I haven't had as long of a relationship with that movie. So I'm curious to revisit that and see what I think about that. Even some of his newer stuff. I haven't watched a lot of his newer stuff either. So, you know.
I'm trying to think of
stuff like QB Halloween, Murder Mystery.
I watched Murder Mystery 1 and 2. First one.
So it's, things like that. Like I haven't. Ridiculous 6 was the show he did on Netflix, right? I haven't seen any of that, but because around Jack, like I know I hate Jack and Jill, and I know that's not a hot.
Who likes it?
Yeah, I was like, I know it's not a hot take, but didn't enjoy that one.
How do you feel about Click? What's your relationship with Click?
It's a good movie. I've seen it a few times. I mean, it's good.
Everybody talks about it on TikTok. That's the only reason I was asking.
Why?
I don't know.
I'm also curious to do the podcast on his more serious movies. Like Punch Drunk Love is a very good film.
Right.
Uncut Gems.
Great movie.
Yeah. So like Adam Sandler has range. It's just he very rarely, because he's comfortable in comedy.
Yeah.
Like he personally just won't go out of comedy, I think, unless he really digs the project. But when he does, it's like, man, he can really act.
Yeah, no, he really. The first like serious Adam Sandler movie I ever watched, I don't know if it is, but it was The Cobbler.
See, I never watched that one. I saw that it came out, but I did not see it.
Yeah, I watched it and I was like,
Punch
okay.
Drunk Love was the first thing I saw of his that was serious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm curious to through because we're doing his whole filmography, so we're gonna learn some Adam Sandler. There's some movies I haven't seen. There's some stuff I have relationships with. There's some that I may have only watched like one time. So I'm curious to see what ends up being like my favorite. But like this is a classic movie. That's why I said it was such a great starting point for this. And I really enjoy it. Like it's you know, a year older than me. It's 27. It's the age that Adam Sandler was when he was in the movie now. And it still holds up pretty well. Like there's not a whole lot of things where it's like that didn't age very well, or like that's probably not really that great. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
it
we
was very
talked about a couple
self-aware.
things, but it was self-aware in itself. And it never felt like mean spirited or like overly like we talked about with Not Cool in Airplane Mode. How it just felt like everyone hated each other,
Yeah.
and that's not the vibe here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad we did it. The next Adam Sandler movie, we'll figure out what we want to do. Or
Can
we
we do
said
my
Happy
favorite?
Gilmore. What?
Can we do my favorite?
What was that again?
We gotta do The Longest Yard.
Oh yeah, that's classic. That's classic.
That's my
I grew up
favorite
with.
one.
Did you know that movie's a remake?
Yeah, I love
Is
that.
it Burt Reynolds is in both of them?
Yeah, King. Love that.
Burt
So
Reynolds
nice you had to do
icon.
it twice. I hate that I said that. Can we cut that out?
No,
No!
I'm clipping that.
I
Like
can't
I'm
wait
gonna
till I'm
use
the one that
that.
edits these because I'm gonna be editing.
I need to clip that and like put that on our social medias. Like,
No!
like
Ew.
here's the replay of the Film Vomit podcast. So nice, we had to do it twice. Like you sometimes you give me such gold.